Pathfinder.
Now, TCP/IP you often hear a lot about, and you may be confused. It's sometimes referred to as TCP/IP or TCP/IP here, like you see without the slash, and sometimes just plain old IP. Now, when I say referred to, you may see this in a book, a technical magazine, or just talking to people in general. A lot of times people abbreviate what they're dealing with when we're talking about TCP/IP. Now, this is important to point out because TCP/IP is actually a whole suite or group of protocols. What that basically means is instead of just being one individual protocol, this TCP/IP that we see up here is actually broken down into several protocols, including TCP and IP, as you see here, separated by the /. Now, some of the other protocols that are included in this suite of protocols are UDP, ARP, DNS, HTTP, ICMP, and really many more. Okay, there's several other protocols that are also included in the suite of protocols. Now, this collection of protocols works together to provide you that network experience that you're used to anytime you're on the internet or going back and forth in a network, even on a local area network. Now, TCP/IP was originally developed by the Department of Defense, but now the standard protocol is used in just about every network, including the internet. Let's take a quick look at exactly how TCP/IP works, just to give you a better feel, comparing it to our mail system. Okay? Now, up top here, what we're dealing with is just a normal sender who may be sending a letter through the US Post Office. Okay, and then down below, we're going to look at this a little bit differently and just look at how it works within the computer framework. Okay, now we start off with our data existing on a computer, and that's what we have here. This data, when it's being sent across a network, is transformed into what we call a packet. Now, to get that packet from one computer to another, we need some way of addressing where this packet's going, and that's what we have when we use an IP address, which, as you see above, is very similar to a mailing address. Now, after we've IP addressed it, we then send it across the network. So it's electronically moving across our network as we see right here. And then eventually, once that packet has reached the destination computer, we have a confirmation packet that is sent back to the originating computer, informing it that we received the packet. Now, this may seem complex, but this happens over and over and over again every time you connect out to a website. Okay, so this process here happens transparently in the background many times as you're sitting there surfing the net or just even browsing on a local area network. Okay, let's go take a look at some hands-on information here. And what we're going to focus on is just a basic network diagram first off. Now, we're sitting on this machine right here, XP1, and this is just a laptop configured statically with an IP address of 192.168.1.111. Now, in this video, we're not going to get into depth on how we configured this or why we chose this IP address. We will cover that, however, in some of the other videos in this particular series. So I encourage you to watch some of the other videos if you're looking to learn more about the details and the design orientation of picking out IP addresses. What we want to focus on is how we actually configure this IP address and then our different choices when it comes to actually configuring it. Now, a second ago here, I just mentioned something that may have thrown you. I said statically. And when we configure IP addresses, we really have two choices. We have static, and then we also have dynamic. Okay, so let me just jot these down here. A static IP address is one that we configure manually, and that's what we're going to focus on in this video. A dynamically configured IP address is one that's done automatically, and that utilizes a type of server called a DHCP server. Now, we're not going to focus on that in this video, but we will show you some examples of that in some of the other TCP/IP videos that are present here within the free training section. Okay, so our goal here is going to be to configure this IP address over here on XP1 statically, and then attempt communication through our hub or switch over to DC1. Let's go take a look at how we can do this. Okay, first off, we're going to go up here and we want to configure our IP address. So we need to go and access our network card. And we can access that network card by going to Network Connections or by right-clicking My Network Places and going to Properties. Okay, and if you don't see these present on your computer, there are some advanced settings or just some configuration settings, I guess, that will show these particular menu options here. Okay, and you could get to those by just right-clicking, going to Properties, and then going into Customize here. Okay, you actually have to go to the Advanced tab as well. So we're not going to go into that here, but that's how you actually get to display My Network Places, okay, right here, and then also the Network Connections dialog box. Okay, so going back up here again, we're going to Network Connections. I'm going to select this, and you can see right here that I have, in this particular machine, 3 different types of network cards. Okay, now we're going to be focusing on predominantly this local area connection here. We'll be ignoring the 1394 connection altogether, and this last connection here, as you can see, is a wireless network card. It's just integrated within this laptop, but presently there is no wireless network around. So this X here indicates that this network card is disconnected or just can't connect to anything. Okay, and you would see that same thing up here if, for example, the cable were unplugged on this physical network card that's in the back of this laptop. Okay, but the cable is plugged in and it has an electrical signal, so we don't have any indication that this network card is unplugged. Okay, I'm going to right click up here on local area connection, then go to properties. Okay, and what I need to do is go down here to TCP/IP Internet Protocol. Okay, so I'm going to select this. You can double click this or you can select it and go to properties. And then here's where we actually configure our IP address. Okay, now in the next video in this series, we're going to focus in on exactly what this IP address and subnet mask configuration means and what it's all about. And we'll also hit on the default gateway and DNS server in later videos as well. For right now, though, what we want to do is focus in on this configuration. Okay, you can see right here that we have statically inputted an IP address, and this would be set in advance by yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just close out of here. I wanted to show you where we can actually configure this. Real simple here. And before we mention static and dynamic, because I have this bottom option selected here, this is a static IP address that I've put in statically or manually myself. If I wanted a dynamic IP address, one that I get from a DHCP server, I'd have to select this top option, obtain an IP address automatically. Now, there's no DHCP server present on this network, so this option would not work. So I can either just go back here or just click cancel down below and it'll set up my original settings. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this out so we don't save these blank settings that we have now. Okay, and I'm going to cancel all the way out here. Okay, and then close this just to show you how we could do that. Now, last thing we're going to cover in this video is really show you a couple other options that you can use to check your IP address in case you can't obtain it. This is a real good tool to know how to use, and this one's called IPconfig. And I'm just going to go to a command prompt by going to Start, Run, okay, and that's what we see right here, and then typing in CMD as you see. I then click OK, and this is a command prompt. From here, if I type in the command IPconfig, hit enter, this reveals my IP address information over here. Okay, so this gives us the exact same information that we had seen previously when we went into the actual graphical interface that showed our network card. This is important to realize, however, though, if we automatically set up our computer to obtain an IP address dynamically, you wouldn't be able to see the static IP address, and this would be the only way that you could see your IP address is by going to a command prompt and then typing in IPconfig. Okay, another important command is to test connectivity to this machine here, and that's the ping command, P-I-N-G, which stands for Packet Internet Network Groper. Now, we're not too worried about this actual, the acronym there, so don't worry about that if you didn't catch it. We're just going to go back over here. What this command does, it sends out 4 packets by default of information to this computer and then replies back and forth. Okay, so it's going to send out 4 different packets of information. Let's try this out. Now, the command is just simply ping space and the IP address of the destination computer. Now, on the diagram, it's 192.168.1.10, and this would be required information for you to have. Otherwise, this command's not going to work appropriately if you don't have the right IP address. Now, when I hit enter, you see right here that we're getting a reply back, okay? And we got 4 different replies. These are the different packets of information I was referring to that are being sent out, okay? Here are your statistics: 4 packets sent, 4 received, 0 lost. So this tells us that we have network connectivity on our simple network right here going back and forth. Okay, and this is the first step that we need to worry about when it comes to just simple home or small office, home office network connectivity.